Hey everybody, this is Daniel Wheeler, an instructional technology specialist at Del Valley High School, and today I wanted to go over how to design a blended learning lesson in the Google Classroom environment. So, in addition to being an instructional technology specialist, I teach a couple of dual credit English classes here at the high school, and this is the Google Classroom page for my English 1302 junior section. And I really wanted to walk you through the lesson planning process from beginning to end. Every day, my students come in and they open up a daily agenda. It's going to be the first announcement they see on the class stream. And that agenda basically lays out everything they're going to be working on for the day. And so when you are designing your lesson, I think it all starts with that daily agenda. The students need to know what they're working on and where they're going. So step one, you got to create your daily agenda. I'm going to give you a look at my daily agenda folder. Every day, I just make a copy and create a new daily agenda, and I just change out the information. It's the same template every day. So I'm actually getting ready for today's lesson, and I wanted to go over the information. Today I'm actually teaching juniors, so that's grade 11. They're not seniors, they're juniors. But today's date is correct. The first thing and the most important thing is starting with your three-part objective. Here at the school, we have a formula for how we write our objective, but I'll just go over the one that I wrote today. We will understand the 6 common language devices used in fiction, identify them in select passages, and collectively build a language device toolkit with definitions, examples, and analysis templates with sentence structures to help you produce your own written analysis. Now, I usually go over this 3-part objective with all my students before we get going on the day. The next column is the working vocabulary. This is something that we build over each unit, and so it's sort of a running list, and I just put the most important definitions up there that I want my students to be familiar with. And then in the third column is essential questions. Now, some teachers only have 1 or 2 essential questions for each lesson, but I kind of treat my essential questions like my working vocabulary. I want my students to have a running list of big driving questions that are shaping our curriculum. And we've been doing literary analysis this unit, and we've been looking at the different elements of fiction and learning how to analyze each one of those. And today we're actually just focused on this question. And I would bring this up to my students too. What are the 6 language devices? How do I recognize them in literature? And how do I analyze them? That's the big question. Now, every day, our lesson is built around a station model. And so there's going to be stations every single day. But as I'll show you in just a minute, the way that we progress through the stations can change depending on the lesson or the day. But this will look pretty similar. I'll change the title of the stations depending on the day. But over here where it says how will you demonstrate understanding, well, you'll demonstrate understanding by completing the instructions at each station. That's going to be the same. And then sort of a deeper reflection question. In what ways can I incorporate some of these language devices into my own writing? So we're doing a lot of analysis, but I also want them to keep in the back of their mind like how they can become better writers themselves using these devices. So this first page is pretty important. I mean, I think the most important thing is the 3-part objective. And after you get that down, then it's thinking about the learning activities that your kids are going to do and the products that you want them to produce. And so that's actually, we've gone over the TPO, vocabulary, the essential questions, and now we're looking at the stations. Stations can involve independent or group activities. It can involve having them actually work on an assignment. It's going to route them to different content and different media. And so it's important to have very clear instructions, but this allows the students to kind of work at their own pace and be self-directed. So I'm going to go back to my daily agenda and show you the station page. It's page 2. Today I'm only doing 3 stations, and so I actually need to delete this one station because we're only doing 3 today instead of 4. Okay, so the first station is going to be a quiz. My students have been reading a chapter out of the textbook for homework. And so notice on the left side, the left column, it's got the titles for each quiz. I mean, for each station, I'm sorry. And then on the right column, it's instructions on what to do at each station. So some days it's going to be very individualized. I'll tell the students, okay, you've got to get through 3 stations before the end of the class period, go. Sometimes it's, I don't care what order you go in, but you need to get at least 2 stations finished. Today I'm actually going to have the whole class progress through each station at the same rate. So as a full class, we're going to take a quiz at the beginning, and I have that in a Google form, and I'll post the link when the kids are ready to take the quiz. They'll take it, I'll auto grade it and email it immediately back to them, and when everyone's finished with the quiz, we'll move to station 2, which is another group activity. This is going to be the bulk of the lesson today. Students are going to be collectively building a language device toolkit. They'll be working in a randomized group. They will be looking at some examples and then creating their own examples, and then in turn teaching the rest of the class their assigned language device. And then in station 3, they're going to be, well, they've been writing blog entries over an assigned short story, so they're going to be commenting on each other's blogs, and then there's another little group discussion task for them to do. Now keep in mind, I have a 2-hour block schedule, so I see my kids for quite a while. If you're only teaching a 50-minute block, you're not probably going to be able to cover this much content, but that's fine. Maybe you only have 2 stations, or maybe you do really quick stations, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and you progress really quickly. And then finally, I always list the homework for the next class period for my kids to see. So my students have become experts at reading this document, and they often pull it up without me telling them at all. They log in, they go to Google Classroom, they pull up the daily agenda, and they start scrolling through everything because they want to know what they're working on for that day. So once you actually have your daily agenda created, then you also have to make sure that you have developed any of the curriculum you need for the assignments and any other announcements or activities that you want your kids to do. So if I'm looking back at my daily agenda, and I'm looking, okay, number 1 says chapter 6 quiz. Well, I need to make sure that I've created that quiz. So up here in Google Forms, I created a 20-question quiz over their chapter reading, and this is what it looks like from the student's perspective. They're going to have a link that they'll have to go to. They're going to take this quiz, and when they're done, I'm going to use Flubaroo to grade it, send the grades back to the students immediately, and then we'll move on from there. So before I post all this stuff to Google Classroom, I just have it accessible. So I've got the quiz ready to go, I've got the agenda ready to go, but look at station 2. It's another assignment called Language Device Toolkit Activity. That's something I had to create ahead of time. I created a Google document activity where the students will be getting in groups. We have 6 language devices, 1 for diction, 1 for imagery, 1 for symbolism, syntax, irony, and dialogue. Now this is actually an activity that I had my kids do last year before I was using Google Apps exclusively, and this was a Word document. I made a paper copy and the kids went through and did this on paper, but now we can do it digitally through Google Docs. The students will get in groups. They will share, one of the persons in the group will make a copy of this template. They will then share it with their group members, and they'll also share it with me. And I've listed that here in the instructions. 1 person from your group, select file, make a copy, share your copy with your group members, and myself, Mr. Wheeler. Each group will only work on 1 language device. Then we'll come back as a full group and as a full class, and each group will review and go over the examples that they created. As each group presents, the other students are expected to be filling out their toolkit as well. So at the end of the day, each student will have a fully fleshed out toolkit with lots of great examples and definitions that they can use. And then in station 3, which is to me is sort of an extension station. I anticipate that station 2 may take the whole time, but if we get done early, then we still have another station to work on for students to comment on each other's blog posts and to go through a series of discussion questions over the short story, the things they carried. If we don't get to station 3, I'll just throw that down on the homework that they can do before we get to class on Monday. So that group discussion was another Google Doc where I'm having the students just as a group reflect on a series of questions, write them out, and then turn them back in. So at this point, I have created my daily agenda. I've got all the assignments already created and ready to go. I've got the quizzes made. I'm ready to piece this lesson together on our Google Classroom stream. So it's important to realize that the stream is in chronological order, just like a Facebook stream or a Twitter feed. And so you kind of have to go backwards. I start with posting assignments first, then any like announcements or discussion activities, and then the last thing I post is the daily agenda. And the reason that's last is because I want that to be the first thing they see when they log in to the Google Classroom page. So let's go ahead and do it. I've got an assignment that I'm going to be posting, so I got to go back to my daily agenda and refer. I want them to do the quiz assignment first, then the language device, and then the things they carried. So I'm going to go in reverse order. I'm going to post each of those 3 assignments. So you go to your class stream, you click on assignment, you title it things they carried group discussion. You select the due date. I'm not going to see these students till Monday. I think it may take them through Monday, but I want them to have it done by the time they walk into my class at 1:00 p.m. I'm going to assign this to just my juniors. I'm going to find that Google Doc. So I go into my drive, into my course. This is 1302. I separate between teacher docs and course docs. So this is a teacher doc. It's an assignment. I've broken up my curriculum based on unit. This is our 3rd essay we're working on. And this is an assignment template. So I'm going to choose things they carry group discussion. I'm going to add it. Now you do have some choices here. Students can view file, students can edit file, or make a copy for each student. I love the make a copy for each student if I want kids to have their individual copy with their name on it that they can work on. However, you notice this is a group discussion. So I'm going to leave it students can view file, and then I'm just going to leave some instructions. One person from your group, open the attached document, select file, make a copy, then share this copy with your group members. Be sure to give them editing access. Now that seems kind of complicated, but I've gone over this with my students and they're very familiar with the sharing process on Google Docs, so this is very easy for them. It takes them 2 seconds. But the first time you do it is probably going to take some modeling and walking your students through that process. When your group has completed all the discussion questions, add your assignment and then turn in. Again, if I would have made a copy for each student, they're going to have a big turn in button built into Google Docs and then they can turn it in. But when I click assign, I'll show you what happens. Students can actually attach items. They can attach files from their computer. They can attach Google Drive items. And so from a student's perspective, they would click on instructions and they can attach and add their completed work. You don't see it from my view right now because I'm in the instructor account. Okay, so I attached that assignment. Now I've got 2 more to go, so I'm going to go to my my daily agenda, and I need to attach the language device toolkit activity. And it's going to be the same thing. Language device toolkit activity. Now this is something I want them to work on in class today, and it needs to be done before class is up. So 3 o'clock. It's going to go to my juniors only. I'm going to find my Google Drive item, go to my course 1302. Again, this is a teacher doc, and it's in SA3, and it's in my assignment templates, and it's called Language Device Analysis Toolkit. Again, this is a group activity, so I'm going to leave the same instructions, one person, and actually I'm just going to copy it from the other assignment. The only difference though is that I want to add a few caveats here. I want also share this document with Mr. Wheeler. After all groups have presented and you've completed all 6 language device examples, add your assignment and then turn in. So before the kids actually turn in their toolkit activity, remember I'm going to have each group present and go over their specific language device while the other students will be dictating and copying down their examples. So these are sort of, you have a lot of flexibility with how you do the actual assignments, and this isn't something I do often, but I have done it in the past and it works pretty well. And the great thing is if you have multiple classes, you can assign these activities to all your classes at once, and it saves you so much time from copying, from dealing with paper. The next assignment is a quiz, so chapter 6 quiz, and it's over language. And my instructions will be click on the link once I post it, complete the chapter quiz, and then mark as done here when you've finished. Again, this will be something they do in class, and they're going to have that finished by the end of our first period. So I'm just going to say 2 o'clock p.m. That's going to go to my juniors, and then I will assign it. Now you're wondering, well, how will the students access that quiz? Well, whenever the students are all ready to go, all I have to do is go to my quiz here. I'm going to copy the URL, Control C. I'll go back, I'll edit this assignment, and I'm going to add the link. So I'll say, students, are you ready? Okay, here we go, and I'll paste the link. I'll click save. Now the students have the link right here. They can click on it, they can take it. Once they've all submitted, I will actually go back and remove that link. That way other students in other classes can't get the quiz ahead of time. So that's pretty cool. And then using Fluber to grade it, that's a whole other training. Okay, and then finally is the daily agenda. So I just call this daily agenda 3/4/15, and all I do is I just post it. Now I keep the daily agenda in the course documents and resources, which all my students can see, just so that if they ever are curious to go back in time and look at what they did, they can look at the daily agenda. Students can view it. Oh, sorry, I was actually making an assignment. This needs to be an announcement. Got to keep the difference. This is nothing that they'll actually turn in. They're just looking at it. Go to course documents, daily agendas. choose today's daily agenda, and then post. Now, that took us about 20 minutes to get all these items put together, but blended lesson design, it gets faster, and the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And it's just, you kind of load up on the front end, but then your actual classroom experience is really nice. Your students have a lot to work on. It's very individualized. It's interactive. I'm not up in front of my class lecturing the whole time. They have their agenda to work on. They know what stations they're going to, and I've seen really great results from the student end, and it's made my life a lot easier too. My lessons really just involve changing some text on this template, and then posting all the items to the class stream that they'll need for the day, and then I'm good to go. So I hope you enjoyed this. I think keeping these steps in mind, creating the daily agenda, posting the assignments, then any announcements, and then making sure the daily agenda is last. That's the order of things that have worked well for me. Hopefully, you've learned a few things today. Thanks.